Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Ketcher Bisling Baldy. I'm the Department Chair of Native American Studies at Humboldt State University, and I really wanted to thank you all for joining us today, being a part of these panels, talking about these important subjects, and making sure that we were passing on this information and knowledge, engaging with each other, and really building spaces, especially during this time when we're separated, but also trying to find ways to still build community and come together. And I truly appreciate that we were able to do this today. It was a long time in planning, and um, I think that took so many people to be able to make this happen. And I'm really proud of the people that stepped up, and I'm really proud that we have people here that are helping to close it out. And I think you're going to be glad that you stayed for the closing and that you were able to join us today to hear from our invited speaker. I wanted to say really quickly before the symposium ends that, we are putting everything up on our YouTube channel so we can hopefully pass on this information far and wide. And we encourage you to check in on the Native American Studies YouTube channel and the Save California Salmon YouTube channel so that you can follow some of the panels that maybe you couldn't attend today or things that you'd like to tell other people about and share with them. I also wanted to let you know that beginning next week, it's Native American Heritage Month in November. And we celebrate it by finding ways that we can, of course, honor Indigenous peoples throughout the month. And we're going to be doing a food sovereignty speakers series for the entire month of November, each Monday. And we have a flyer for it that we can share with you so that you can make sure that if you'd like to attend, it will be via Zoom, it will be live on Facebook. It's an opportunity to learn more about the HSU Native American Studies Food Sovereignty Lab and cultural workshop space that we're developing and building, but also to learn more about the importance of food sovereignty in our communities. So I highly encourage you to attend. If not, we will be again posting these workshops and videos on our YouTube page. And I just wanted to say, Set Dia and Juan Auchlau for joining us today, and to pass it off to Regina to say a few quick words and then introduce our closing speaker.
Thank you so much. First of all, I wanted to say thank you to everyone who made the Advocacy and Water Protection in Native California speaker series and symposium happen. I have learned so much from all the speakers and all the presentations here today and over the course of the summer. Please do get your evaluations done. If you can, please go to the YouTube page and watch all the old speaker series. And I wanted to point out that one of the things that I've learned and that I feel like a lot of people have learned from this series and in general is that there's so many different ways that you can work to protect the water and the land. And we all need to take actions to deal with water and land policy and to do the boycotts and file the lawsuits and do the actions. But we also need to figure out ways to join with other communities like Black Lives Matters or immigrant communities and figure out how we can decolonize our educational systems and economies. And I feel like we all have skills to share, no matter what it is, whether you're an artist, a scientist, an advocate. Please join with us and always make sure to learn these things and then also to take action and figure out ways to take action. So we're going to be dropping in the chat different ways to take action and how to fill out your evaluation forms. But I also wanted to encourage everyone to go back and to watch our webinar series from last week, which is the 5 steps for mobilizing for water justice in California. And that is on Save California Salmon's YouTube page. And I'm not sure if it's on HSU's yet, but it will be, or HSU's Native American Studies page. But it's really important to watch that because we're talking about how everyone in the state can work for clean water, for proper land management, to make sure that we're not choosing to stay with the old ways of doing things where we're just going to try to build more dams and more diversions as a way to deal with climate change, because we really need to actually be restoring our rivers and bringing them back into balance as a way to deal with climate change. So I just wanted to say that please go back and figure out how you can be involved, watch Mobilizing for Water Justice, and especially watch Step 5, which is Undam the Klamath. Tens of thousands of people participated in our day of action last week, and I think 11 or 12 different cities and towns held COVID safe demonstrations across the nation. Many people contacted Warren Buffett and Bill Gates and the other people who own the Klamath River dams, who have promised to take these dams down in order to tell them to keep their promises. And it was a very powerful day of action. And we're hoping to be doing some of the same kind of things to help stop the Delta tunnels. And if you haven't read it, there's a really good article in Indian Country Today right now about the tribal efforts throughout the state to stop the Delta tunnels. And we need everyone to be involved with that, because it's people from, it's water districts and brokers from LA and from the Central Valley that are going to be trying to take our water as part of that new tunnel and as part of these new dams. So I think that stopping the Delta tunnel was step 2 in mobilizing for water justice, but hopefully we'll be doing a lot more of these types of series. And hopefully we will also be working to turn this summer's webinar speaker series into some curriculum, and we can work on trying to make sure that we have a more equitable educational system within the state of California and hopefully the nation. So on that, like I said, there's so many things that everyone can do in order to mobilize for water justice, in order to make sure that we are respecting the first peoples that were on this land, and that we are making sure that their knowledge is used for actual real management on the ground. So I feel like it's so important that everyone gets involved and everyone has skills to give. But right now I wanted to introduce Thomas Joseph, because Thomas Joseph is one of our best organizers, and one of the people who is always taking action to fight climate change in California and to fight for the Trinity and Klamath Rivers. So Thomas just got back from going all the way to Omaha, Nebraska, to Warren Buffett's house to ask him to undam the Klamath. And then after that, he went all the way to Des Moines, Iowa, to talk to the vice president of Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett's company, to tell him to undam the Klamath at his office at Mid-American Energy. So thank you so much for coming here, Thomas, today. He just got off the road. And that's one of the things we're really trying to talk about as part of the Advocacy and Water Protection in Native California Speaker Series and Mobilizing for Water Justice, is that it's the people who are actually putting their heart and soul into this that are making the change. So with that, our final speaker of the day is Thomas Joseph. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Regina and Ketcha. I want to give a big shout out to the Indigenous women that have led this charge and that continue to lead this charge. It's been many, many years fighting the Klamath, undam the Klamath, and it's a continual battle to continue to protect the Trinity River. And in every group that I'm in, every circle that I'm a part of, it's Indigenous women that are leading the charge. And at Standing Rock, we could witness how this attack against our Mother Earth is destructive. And she knows, you know, people, it's a dark force that's out there that is destroying our Mother Earth. And they know that our greatest warriors and our greatest assets are our Indigenous women. And so it's no wonder to me that murdering and missing Indigenous women is such a epidemic at this time. It's because they are our greatest warriors, and I want to thank them for that. You can follow my trail all the way over to Des Moines. It was Indigenous women that led the charge, even though it was my physical body there. From Reno to Salt Lake City to the first action in Nebraska, in Omaha, and the additional action in Des Moines. That was all organized by Indigenous women on the ground. It's important that we recognize place and the important that the Indigenous peoples have connection to place and the land and to Mother Earth. And so when we go across this nation or wherever that you're organizing, understand that the Indigenous people from that land have a connection there since time immemorial, and that they are embedded in that relationship with their Mother Earth. And if you are there defending Mother Earth, they need to be there as well. They need to lead that charge. And so that happened all the way across the states as we made our journey over there. Indigenous women stepped up and led the charge. And so it's just it's neat to understand how our Mother Earth is defending herself. It's a perfect balance. It's a renewal, you know. Our greatest assets are those Indigenous women because they are connected to that Mother Earth, to our Mother Earth. and they know what tools need to be used in the time that they need to be used. We know that dismantling white supremacy, dismantling colonialization, we can't use their tools. You know, you can't use his tools to take down the master's home. And so what tools are not at that table? What tools are not being used? It's the indigenous knowledge. It's our collective ancestral wisdom that's going to dismantle white supremacy. It's our collective ancestral wisdom that's going to decolonialize our communities. That's going to rise up Black Lives Matter. That's going to stand in solidarity with the gentrification of our cities. Those are the tools that we need to rise up. Those are the tools that we need to use to dismantle white supremacy and colonialization. And it's the indigenous women that have those tools. So team up with them. Let them take that charge. Let them take that lead. You know, I just want to really share the importance of indigenous leadership because of those tools and understanding the relationship to place. And you know, it's all of our responsibility and duty as we continue to reconnect or continue our relationship with our Mother Earth. We're going to also be able to be guided in a way that'll defend her. And this relationship is vital because when you believe in her and when you love her, you strive not to hurt her. You strive to be a better human. You strive to waste less, to use less, to recycle more, to not even use plastic anymore. And when you start holding yourself to that level of accountability, it's really easy to hold the perpetrators to a higher level of accountability. These corporations, these billionaires, they're not good, you know? And it's hard for us to be like, well, the economy is not going to be able to sustain itself if we just all of a sudden drop off of fossil fuel. But if you start reducing your use and you start taking personal responsibility, those thoughts go out the way. We can survive without fossil fuel. We can create a just economy. And it's a transition. We're in a transition period. And it's up to us to make sure that this is a just transition. Native Americans or indigenous people are the first patriots to the land. That is our obligation. That is our duty. That is our calling. That is what we stand for. And we can see how tribal governments or other entities that are indigenous led that are pushing for economic growth or for more money kind of loses that way. So it's up to us to also hold our local officials accountable to make sure that our first priority is the protection of our land and the protection of our Mother Earth. And the nation will follow suit. We ask for land back, but we got to make sure when we get that land back, we don't abuse it and disrespect it the same way that colonialization has taught us to. This nation is in a transition. It's growing. And it's growing closer towards humanity because of the actions of people on the ground and the actions on the people on the front lines. It's always been that way. Since the beginning of this nation, when it first established itself here, it was indigenous peoples that recognized this country as a nation, that made treaties and agreements with this government. The rest of the world didn't see the United States as a nation. They see them as a bunch of renegades that ran away from their homeland. They're colonizers, but it was indigenous tribes that recognized them and as a nation and gave them that authority or that right. And with that authority and that right, they developed the country that we see today. But back then, they didn't even recognize the rights of women. They didn't recognize the rights of people of color. They enslaved them. They brought them over here. But because of people on the front line and people willing to take action, that began to change. And we've seen that slavery ended. We've seen that the rights of women were recognized. That didn't go without action. That didn't go with people being like, well, it's about time. No, it took people on the ground. It took people being brutalized, being beat up, and it took people taking the streets and demanding that we will take these steps closer to humanity and recognize the rights of people of color and recognize the rights of recognize the rights of women. And so what we're doing now today is that same move. We're asking that this nation that now is embedded on our motherland. Respect and honor the rights of our Mother Earth. And if need be, we'll take action in the streets, and we'll hold those perpetrators accountable, those billionaires. The corporate greed needs to stop. And it's going to take direct action. It always has. And we must continue that fight. We must continue to be patriots of our Mother Earth and protectors of our Mother Earth, and challenge this nation to take those direct steps to a closer world of humanity, where all things living can prosper and grow, not just for the benefit of the small few. And it's the time. It's the time that we recognize that as a nation and as a people, that if we want to continue to exist and with dignity and honor, that this nation must start recognizing the rights of our Mother Earth. They must start protecting our waterways, and it'll just make us a better place. It'll start healing our Earth in the manner that it needs to be healed, and we will always reflect our environment. I don't care if you believe it or not. We will always reflect our environment. And when our environment is being destroyed, when our environment is being used and abused and brutalized, so are our people, so are our communities. And if you look at this nation, it's in turmoil right now. There's no greater time than now to start protecting the sacred and start defending her. And you can organize, and you can gather up people, and you can take it to the streets, and you can do what you feel like you need to do, or you can be independent about it. It took 2 people for us to go and drop a banner on Warren Buffett's home. They need to be held accountable, and hold yourselves accountable, and understand that waste is gross. It's not needed. That we need to start making a personal accountability for the primary point of holding the perpetrators accountable. If you start to reduce and reuse, you'll be more motivated to stop those people that are doing the real crimes against our Mother Earth, to stop the people that are destroying her and abusing her. So I invite all of us to really reflect on your connection to place and where you're from and where you rest your head at night. Who is connected to that land? It could be you. You can be an Indigenous person on that ancestral land, or you could be a guest to it. But the important thing is that you protect it. Everything you own, everything that has ever came your way has come from your Mother Earth. She has given you everything. So it's time to protect her and defend her, and to move this nation along the path towards humanity for all things living. Thanks for your time. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Thomas. I wanted to quickly say, beyond making sure to finish your certification program and watching all the webinars that you need to watch, please do watch the Undam the Klamath webinar, and also all of the Mobilizing webinars. And I wanted to say really quickly, before hopefully Katja can finish this out for us, that we would not have been able to do this summer speaker series without the dedication of the Save California Salmon interns. So I just wanted to thank Carrie, Pua, Darcy, and Cody for all of their hard work on this. I know that there's been some technical issues here and there, but figuring out how to go from an organization that does a lot of in-person events and meetings and rallies and going and testifying on different things to an organization that tries to offer online educational resources and online organizing opportunities has been very difficult, and we would not have been able to do it without our amazing staff, and also without Caitlin and Katja from HSU's Native American Studies Department, which I think is one of the best educational departments that I have ever interacted with or even heard of. So if anyone's ever looking to learn more, I would definitely recommend taking some of their classes. And with that, please take action for our water. Please take action to figure out ways that you can support your local communities and your local tribal people, no matter where you are on native land, and you have a responsibility because of it. With that, I would like to give it back to Katja so she can close us out.
Thank you, Regina. Thank you, Carrie and Cody and Pua and Darcy. Thank you, Thomas Joseph, for such an inspirational way to end this symposium. And of course, my co-conspirator, Dr. Caitlin Reed in the Native American Studies Department. Again, I'd like you all, to encourage you all to follow Save California Salmon on all of the social media. Pua has been doing such an amazing job of making sure to post photos and pictures and updates. And we've got people really just trying to get people as involved as possible with these movements. And when you show support, even via social media, don't think that it's something like, oh, if I do that, I'm not doing something real. Supporting people via social media, showing them that their videos are making a difference, that their posts are being engaged with, that people care about this information, that can change the tone of what people think is like the important issues that are happening. We've been working for so many years to undam the Klamath in this region. But I will tell you, we have always known that this was going to be a long-term process that we were signing up for. And we're in it, like Native people are in it for the long-term process to make something happen. So we all have to say out loud that it is possible, that we see a world beyond dams, and that that's something that we want for ourselves. I'm a big believer in nothing can become until we say it out loud. So I remind us to end today with like a way in which we start saying out loud the way the world should be. A world without dams, a world where salmon are safe, a world where people are thriving. And I'll end with the words that our lovely esteemed visitor in the beginning of this symposium started with, Julian Lang, a Kuduk tribal member with wisdom far beyond the years of any of us. He ended his speech this way, and I think it's a great way to end the symposium. Now that you've had this whole day, now that you've learned things, now that you've seen from the speakers, it's now time to go out and give them hell. So I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Feel free to find some way to go out and give them hell and make sure that we can take these dams down and start moving forward on what water justice really is and what it looks like. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.